What's up, guys, and welcome to a Week 15 NFL edition of Player Pool. Looking at the NFL Week 15 slate for DraftKings, we're going to build some lineups, and we got a few situations, including the return of Phillip Rivers this week. But is he going to be worth starting in DFS this week? I'm going to get into it right after this.
The most advanced sports news and nugget aggregator has arrived. SportNuggets.com is here to help you dominate with unbeatable intel, fantasy, daily fantasy, betting, or flooding the zone with news and nuggets to crush your competition. Our cutting-edge AI delivers instant analysis on player nuggets from the most trusted sources, articles, podcasts, videos. We leave no stone unturned. We mine every word for nuggets on every player, stars, backups, even practice squad sleepers. Our smart filtering lets you cut through the deluge and zero in on specific players, teams, games, or positions. Sort by trending or injury nuggets to find leads to uncover hidden gems. Premium access to expert breakdowns, gaming tips, and analysis that turn nuggets into wins. And if we miss a nugget, our members can jump in to fill the gap. The most commented, liked, or favorited submissions get a boost in our engagement rankings, helping fellow prospectors discover the real gold. Mine the edge. Dominate the game. Join the beta now and start mining before your rivals do.
What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Player Pool. Going to be breaking down the NFL Week 15 Sunday slate, the main slate for DraftKings, and building some DraftKings lineups. And I'm going to get into that in a second. We got Phillip Rivers making a return after 5 years of retirement. And the news is breaking now that he's going to be a starter for this week. So whether or not we play him is going to be coming up. I'm going to take a look at the matchup and the price and the possibilities of Phillip Rivers this week. Last week we hit on Shedeur Sanders. That was a massive hit. Ended up being, I think, the second highest scoring quarterback on the slate, right behind Josh Allen. And he was about $4,300 or something crazy. And we're going to take another look at him today. We might have another opportunity to start Sanders and run it back. I don't see a lot of hype on him, which is good because he's in another decent matchup. So we can take a look and see if it'll be worth starting him again this week. And all sorts of other interesting games. We got a lot of playoff implications in Week 15. A lot of big games that are going to have a lot of impact this week. And before I get into that, make sure to hit that like button. Looking for 70 likes so we can put my favorite plays in the insight section over on SportNuggets.com. SportNuggets.com. If you're not subscribed over there yet, put down the crack pipe, go over there and open up an account. It's a secret weapon when it comes to keeping track of news and nuggets. It's a free beta preview on top of it. So all sorts of benefits over there on SportNuggets.com. We'll take a look real quick at some of this Phillip Rivers news that is breaking. Seeing that, let's see, if we click on Phillip Rivers, we see all the news coming in. Activated to the Colts, active roster for the first time in 5 years. We got Mike Garafolo saying that he's starting for the Colts after coming out of retirement. That was about 20 minutes ago. We got all sorts of news about him coming out of retirement, and it looks like he's going to be starting this game according to Garafolo. So going to be an interesting week. Last week in the insights, we'll go reset this page here. I'm going to sort by insights, and I'm going to go to Cleveland, and I can show you what the insight was for Shedeur Sanders last week. We're high on him on the show. I talked him up, his rivalry with Cam Ward. I told you guys I'd put a nugget up about that rivalry, and I got that up last week. And the more I dug into that rivalry, the more I got on Sanders, and I recommended him as an insight over on SportNuggets.com, right? Probably about a couple hours before game time, or very close to enough time, obviously, for you guys to get him in your lineups. But Shedeur Sanders, I kind of like him again this week. I want to check out the weather and get a better look at the weather in the game that he's going to be playing in. He has a decent matchup again this week, but we'll get into that when we hit that game. But Shedeur Sanders was the highlight of last week's insights, and he ended up having that massive game. And if you started him, I know he came in second place in the Millie Maker. I think if more people had started him, he was like 1% owned. I think he's projected to be around 1% owned again this week. And people just think he's a laughing stock, which is great if we want to, kind of play the narrative that maybe he's got a little bit more talent than people are giving him credit for. The problem with Shedeur Sanders is the coach keeps freaking doing these stupid wildcats when they get to the goal line, and that cost him probably like a decent amount of points. I had him as a rushing touchdown on my underdog video last week. He ended up getting that rushing touchdown for us. None of my other hits hit on that underdog video, unfortunately. But Shedeur Sanders, if you used him as a anytime rushing touchdown or a touchdown, then you would have done well with that. But yeah, Sanders, he's in play again this week, and we'll take a deeper look into it when we get there. I like the narrative last week where it was against Cam Ward, and they were having a little banter back and forth, leading into the draft. And Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders talk good trash to each other. They're friends. They were training together, and I was thinking that with Shedeur dropping as far as he did in the draft, he was projected to be a first round pick. And then he dropped into like the fourth round, fifth round before the Browns finally picked him up, and it took him forever to get into that starting role. But he's been in it, and he's been the best quarterback that the Browns have seen in a long time. He's almost won the game versus Tennessee last week. Ended up having a really good game, and he makes a lot of mistakes. He's a rookie. A little bit of overhyped probably, but Shedeur Sanders now more humbled probably, and last week he had a big game, and we'll see what he does this week. He plays against the Bears, and the Bears, similar situation. He's facing off against another number 1 overall pick, and maybe he wants to prove himself again. So when we get to that game, we'll take a deeper look into the matchup. But let's start off with the Jets versus Jacksonville. Make sure to also subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to 2,400. I believe I'm 20 short of that. Ultimately, I want to get to 3,000 before the end of the season, but let's start with 2,400. I need 20 more to get there. Pay attention to the promo codes on the screen. I got BetMGM. Use the code HEATER1500. You're going to get up to $1,500 risk-free bet. So if you bet a few $100s on a bet for your first bet over on BetMGM using that code, and you lose, they're going to give you those bets or that money back in free bonus bets. So if you bet 200, lose, they're going to give you $200 in bonus bets. Take advantage of that. Over at Underdog, if you use the promo code SEEK, SEEK, they're going to give you a $100 bonus when you make your first $5 play. So if let's say you enter a best ball contest for $5, you're going to get a $100 bonus. That's going to get you $100 to play in playoff best ball. I'm going to begin those shows next week. So go get over there. Underdog. I shipped a couple contests last year, including the one of the mittens over on Underdog and the single entry over on DraftKings. I came in first in both those contests. Playoff best ball is one of my favorite games to play. I love projecting the path to the Super Bowl, and I do good at it. So you're going to want to subscribe to the channel and sign up for that Underdog account to take advantage of those shows. So with New York versus Jacksonville, we'll look at that game first. Let me call up my spreadsheet here. So we're looking at a 41.5 point total with Jacksonville as 12.5 point favorites in this one. So we got a massive situation here for Jacksonville. And we're looking at Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields are both out this week. And so we're looking at Cook as the starter, Brady Cook. I believe he's an undrafted free agent, but he's going to be starting the game regardless. And let's see what he did. Did he do anything last week? Last week, he had 30 attempts, 14 completions, 163 yards against Miami. So not too bad there. The Jacksonville defense is giving up 18.6 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. So that's a good matchup for Brady Cook, or a middling matchup for him. But, I don't think that the Jets are going to be incentivized to win this game. They got a whole bunch of first-round picks coming up next season, next couple of years. And, they're more incentivized right now to try to lock in a first overall pick, which would explain part of the reason why maybe they put in Brady Cook instead of looking for a retired NFL quarterback off the trash heap of the streets. So we got Brady Cook starting for the Jets this week. Trevor Lawrence, obviously, for the Jags. Jets are giving up 14.6 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position, but they're not really giving up a lot to the passing game, because you're going to want to focus on the run game here, with the likely outcome of the Jags just kind of dominating this game. They're playing in Jacksonville. That sets up Travis Etienne to have a decent game in this one. And Travis Etienne, he's had a couple good weeks recently. He's had 3 weeks in that 20 DraftKings point range out of the last 4. So that puts him in play at 6,500. So Travis Etienne will be interesting for us. As far as the wide receivers, we got maybe Jacoby Myers would be interesting in this one. But, really, I don't think there's going to be enough volume for these receivers on the Jacksonville side. So if you wanted to take a look at maybe A.D. Mitchell or John Mechie, they're a little bit pricey, 4,300 and 4,400. We saw 6 targets for A.D. Mitchell last week, and he only caught 1 of them. So he's kind of reverted back to what we saw before he got to the Jets, when he had a competent quarterback with Tyrod throwing to him the last couple weeks. At least he had a chance, but like with an undrafted free agent, maybe not so much with A.D. Mitchell this week. Breece Hall, he played his best with Justin Fields, it seems. He had a couple good games with Tyrod Taylor. Week 8 was his biggest game of the season. He had 35 DraftKings points that week. But this week with Breece Hall, not really feeling it with Breece Hall this week. And on top of that, the Jags are only giving up 16.5 DraftKings points a game to the position. With the tight ends, the Jets have a good matchup there. But again, we're talking about a undrafted free agent as the quarterback. And it looks like Mason Taylor's out anyways. So let's see who the backup would be here. Going to go over to snap count leaders. We'll take a look at the Jets, see if we can get any insight here. Taylor, when he went out last week, looked like Ruckert. Had a decent amount of snaps, but he's been having about 50% snaps throughout the season. So, yeah, I don't know how the Jets are going to handle the tight end position, but it'll be a good matchup for him. I like Jelani Woods when he was with Indy, but I don't know if he's going to get an opportunity. They've been trying out young guys, so I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to give Jelani Woods an opportunity. Keep an eye on inactives heading into that game. But, I'm not really interested in any of these guys, to be honest, even though the matchup is good. Jags D is probably expensive. They're at 3,900. So they're in consideration, obviously. Let's go to the Browns versus the Bears. And we have in this one, we got a 40.5 point total with the Bears as 7.5 point favorites. The Bears have been vulnerable to the pass, which is what sets us up here with the Shedeur Sanders potential play. If we look over at Shedeur Sanders, we can see last week he had 42 pass attempts, ended up getting 364 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't know if you can put the genie back in the bottle here if you're the head coach. He had a decent week for San Francisco. He just didn't get there for us from a performance perspective for DFS. But really, again, like all we need out of him at 4,700 is about 17, 18 points. that's a pretty significant week. But Shedeur Sanders is very cheap at 4,700 on a slate where we have a lot of playoff implication games. Maybe we could go a different direction at the quarterback this week. But Shedeur Sanders, I do think is going to be in play for us. Let me check the weather. So if we're looking over at Roto Grinders, I'm going to take a look at Kevin Roth's analysis here. We got Cleveland versus Chicago. It's going to be brutally cold. Temperatures hovering around 10 degrees with a 10-mile-an-hour wind. That would put the feels like temperature slightly below zero. So it's going to be a very cold game. They have a heated field. But, the cold should impact the passing game a little bit. But, Shedeur Sanders, where was he playing? Colorado. So it gets cold over there. Maybe he's used to it. Maybe he can perform under these conditions. Like, I'm not going to write him off. I'm not going all in on him. Maybe like last week, but I do think that Shedeur Sanders is in play. He's going to be low owned for us, and he's got a good matchup against this Chicago defense. As far as Caleb Williams, I'm not as high on him. He doesn't do well under pressure, and the Browns are able to get a lot of pressure. Let's take a look and see the injury situation for the Browns and see if we see any weakness that we can exploit with Caleb Williams. We're looking at a couple of the offensive line out. That puts a ding, obviously, on Shedeur Sanders' situation. And we got, a bunch of centers are out on IR. Their offensive line is just like completely banged up. Njoku is out. That's going to be good for Harold Fannin Jr. Tillman is questionable. Dylan Sampson is out. That's going to be good for Judkins, but this isn't the best matchup for running backs, with the Bears only giving up 18.6 DraftKings points a game to the position. If we look over here at the defense, we got Denzel Ward is out. We got a bunch of guys out in the defense. Malik Collins is on IR. So a little bit easier matchup for let's see. Sorry, I'm just switching over to my DraftKings for Caleb this week. And, it could be an interesting situation for him. He's only had 120 DraftKings point week out of the last 4. They're playing at home. I don't hate the matchup with those injuries to the defense, but the Bears or the Browns are a good D, and it's going to put a strain on Caleb Williams when he's pressured against them. And the Browns are good. They're third in pressure rate, so he's going to have a tough matchup this week. But I do kind of hope that he does well with those that damage to that Cleveland defense, because I want a high scoring game if we're going to get Shedeur Sanders involved here. As far as the running back situation, the Browns have been weaker to the running back. They're giving up 26 DraftKings points a game. That's going to put Swift and Monangai in play. If we think that it's going to be, maybe a game where they're playing from ahead, Monangai might be more interested. They got a even split pretty much on the backfield, so it's going to be tough to decide. But he's more involved. Swift is more involved in the passing game. Monangai, would take a look at him. He gets decent involvement in the pass game too, but Swift I think is the preferred option there. But Monangai, 8.7 DraftKings points last week in their loss to Green Bay, 22 against Philly in that game where they got 200 rushing yards against Philly that week. So, the running backs are in play here if you want to lean on either of those guys. I think, either one of those guys could potentially be in play this week. If we're looking at the wide receivers, Odunze is questionable. We got DJ Moore, who's been next to nothing like all season. Luther Burden has really been the guy that seems to be coming on towards the end of the season here. We got 5, 6, and 6 targets out of him. Have not had a touchdown since early in the season. That was in my underdog video there that we hit like 87x return on for that pick'em that week. Keep an eye on the channel for that underdog video to come out. But Luther Burden has not scored a touchdown since then. But maybe we see something against the Browns weakened secondary. But the Browns, like I said, they're good at defending the pass, and they get run on a lot more than passed on. So the run game is the one that's really in play for the Bears. But if we were doing a Shedeur Sanders, we'd want it to be a bit more of a high scoring game. So Burden would be in play in that situation. Jerry Jeudy got a long touchdown last week. Even with that touchdown, I think it was a 60-yard touchdown. He still only had 16.6 DraftKings points. He's at 4,400 though. He's not that expensive. So, he could be in play for us this week against the Browns. The Browns are against the Bears. The Bears are giving up 15.1 to the slot and 23 DraftKings points to wideouts. And we see Jeudy in the, wideout position a lot more than in the slot. Going to take a look over here and see what kind of snap counts we're looking at for these guys. Let's see. So for Cleveland, we had Tillman at 64%, Isaiah Bond at 48%. He's that primary slot receiver. Gage Lavardane at 42%. He might have come in for Tillman. I don't know. I never heard of that guy before, but that's an interesting thing for us to note. That's a pretty decent snap count for a guy who's probably in the 3K range. Isaiah Bond, pretty interesting there too. Let's go check out Isaiah Bond. Bond in the slot. Only 2 targets last week. And really only 2 targets the last few weeks. Let's check out that generic guy. Levadin. He had freaking 3 targets last week. 18 yards. He's had 3 targets each of the last 2 weeks. So 3K. Larvadane. Let me check out what his his slot routes are. I want to get an idea where this guy lines up. All right, so he's 21% from the left slot. Let's see where he's at on the right slot. It takes a second for my page to load. It's premium, so I can't share it. He is 17% from the right slot and outside. So we got about 37% from the slot. 28% on the right outside. And Lavraden is 26% on the right outside, or left outside. So primarily runs outside, but we do get some slot routes out of him. As far as the matchup, again, the Bears giving up 23% out wide and 15% to the slot. He's got 40% share snap counts, and we got 3 targets and 3 targets in each of the last 2 games. Nothing huge, but if we get desperate and we want to squeeze in, like maybe Puka and Jackson Smith and Jigba into a lineup, and we're doing a Shedeur Sanders stack, like this is a guy that we can consider for a cheap play, but it's very thin play, so take it with a grain of salt. Let's see. Isaiah Bond is also at 3K. He's got a little bit more of a name brand to him, but like I said, he's not getting enough targets. He was getting targeted earlier in the season. I don't know why he had such a drop off, but you look at those targets that he had, he's really not giving us any fantasy performances there. So really, ultimately, the best stacking partner is going to be Harold Fannin Jr. He's not going to be overlooked by the crowd. He's got a high ownership. The Bears are giving up 13.8 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. Browns are giving up only 11.4. So Loveland is not in a very good spot, but he's at 3,600. He could be in play. He's been getting decent targets lately, 5, 6, and 5. Couple weeks over double-digit points. 3,600. That's a pretty good situation for Colston Loveland, but difficult matchup. As far as the defenses, only 3,500 on the Bears. That's not terrible. 2,700 on the Browns if you think they can get there with that pressure and force Caleb Williams into some mistakes in this one. Washington versus the Giants. In this one, we are looking at we got a 46.5 point total in this one. We got the Giants as 2.5 point favorites. This is an interesting game to me. This is a sloppy shootout special. We got Jackson Dart versus Marcus Mariota since we got Jaden Daniels out this week. Let's see. Let's take a look over at the injury report here. We'll look at Washington first. All right. So with Washington, obviously Jaden Daniels is out. Chris Rodriguez is questionable. We got Deebo Samuel is questionable. Zach Ertz is on IR. That's going to make Bates and Senat interesting. Senat was a high draft pick for the Commanders a couple years ago, and he was looking like he was going to be a potential stud. So Ertz being out is going to give Senat an opportunity. On the defense, we're looking at their right cornerback is missing Jonathan Jones and Marshawn Lattimore. That is going to make things interesting over on the Giants passing game for a defense that was already giving up 23 DraftKings points a game to wideouts and 12.6 to slots, as well as 22 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. So very interesting spot here for everyone involved in this game in the passing perspective. We got a division rivalry on top of it. And, neither of these teams are going to be taking a division rivalry lightly, even though they're both incentivized to do poorly in this game. But, they don't do this with division rivalries. None of them have anything to really play for, so it's not really a spoiler opportunity for either of these teams. As far as the damage on the Giants, obviously Cam Scatterboo and Malik Neighbors are the major ones for the offense. We got Evan Neal out as well, still on IR. We got a Nunez Roches is out on the left defensive end for the Giants. Lawrence is questionable, and Davidson is questionable. So their nose tackle is in flux there. We got Thibodeau out again. And we got all sorts of other injuries to the Giants defense here. So we got a shootout potential here between Washington and New York. Let's take a look at the weather. Temp below freezing with a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind, gusting around 25 miles an hour. We don't like those gusts for the passing game. There's also a good deal of snow that will fall in the early morning hours on Sunday, though that should end by around 8 a.m. So they'll have the field likely cleared by that point. They do not have a heated field in New York. New York is infamous for people getting hurt on that field, and they don't do anything about it. So, yeah, I mean, we got an interesting shootout situation between Mariota and Dart. The Giants are giving up 24 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They're giving up 22.8 to wideouts. That sets up Terry McLaurin to have a nice game. They're also giving up 40 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. The problem is like our lead running back here is Chris Rodriguez. And Rodriguez has not done anything this season, but he's getting 10 carries a game. But he's he had a 5.2 average. That's not bad. He had a 5.3 in week 11. He probably could get 5 point something in this matchup. If he gets 15 attempts, we could pencil him in for 75 yards and a potential touchdown at 4,900. That's not bad, but he's questionable. So we got to keep an eye on Chris Rodriguez's status. Maybe we go over to Sport Nuggets and we can check out and see Chris Rod. I don't know how to spell his last name exactly. All right, so Chris Rodriguez poised for an increased role. Questionable for Sunday's game. Let's check out Nikki here. She's one of the beat writers over on the Commanders. Deebo Samuel and Rodriguez are questionable for Sunday against the Giants. Nothing really informative there. Let's see what standing says. Yeah, so just we have to dig in a little bit more to see if we can get like more of an insight into that injury. But if he is out, then that would give us Bill back in play. He's only been getting like 7 carries a game the last few weeks, and he has done nothing with his opportunities either. The run game is just putrid here in Washington, which makes me like that passing game even more. Mariota, when he starts, he does well. 18, 16, and 24 DraftKings points for Mariota. He's got a good matchup in this one. Problem with Dart is after coming from that concussion, he wasn't doing any designed runs. So before that, he was averaging like 20 plus DraftKings points a week. But now that he can't do his designed runs and play his game, we saw only 13.6 against New England last week. But this is a much easier matchup. We could actually see some good passing out of Jackson Dart this week. So we talked about that right cornerback being out for Washington. The guy who would line up the most, I believe, is Slayton. Let me check out Slayton's snap count. He is at 44.7% on the left outside. So let's see. So if he's 44.7 on the left outside, and yeah, right outside corner is the damage there. So we're in a situation here where Slayton could be interesting for us. He's healthy. He got 3 targets only last week, but he had a touchdown. I've tried going to Slayton a few times this season. He always has disappointed me. But I mean, this matchup is a gift to any receiver. So Slayton could be interesting this week. Against the slot, Washington is giving up, 12.6 DraftKings points a game. That's going to put Wan'Dale Robinson in play for us. 8 targets and 14 targets the last 2 games. Wan'Dale is capable of putting up one of these games where he puts up like 30 plus DraftKings points. He's done it a couple times this season. And, the last game that they played each other, he only had 11.5, but that was with Russell Wilson. Wan'Dale could be in play for us this week at 5,900. He's a little bit expensive there. Slayton is at 4,400. If you wanted to double stack Jackson Dart, I don't hate it just based on this matchup. And you can run it back with McLaurin pretty easily. You go the opposite direction and go with Mariota, who's more underpriced at $5K, but he's got an equally good matchup. We could have Mariota with that terrible like run game, passing to Terry McLaurin, easy stack there. And you could run it back with Slayton or Robinson. So we got opportunities there. Washington is also giving up 29 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. So we're going to have Tracy in play for us, or Singletary. So one of those guys could be in play. Singletary's had some big weeks recently. Kind of makes him interesting. He's at 5K versus Tracy, who is at 5,500. So let's take a look over at snap counts for these guys. Let's go to running back. Check out the Giants here. So we had we had 49 and 51 for these guys before their bye week. Yeah, it's been pretty even. Tracy had 71% back in week 12. And that in week 12 was a game that they lost to Detroit. They were in that game. He had 20 rushing attempts in that game, 62 yards, and 4 targets for 68 yards. So he had a big game in that week, like 16 points. It's not huge, but if he had a touchdown, that would have put him over the top there. So, Tracy or Singletary, I think either one of those guys is in play, but I don't like going to split backfields that are thin like this. But, look at the Giants are giving up 40 DraftKings points, and the Commanders are giving up 29 DraftKings points to running backs. They're also, like I said, very vulnerable against the pass. I tend to lean towards the shootout potential here in the pass game. And, this game is going to be a nice sloppy shootout situation for us potentially. If I'm taking a look at the ownership on these quarterbacks, Jackson Dart, 7.8%. Marcus Mariota, also 7.8%. So both those guys are in play for us at cheap ownerships in our tournaments. Baltimore versus Cincy. This game, we're looking at a 51.5 point total. Game with playoff implications in this one. Talked about this in the past. Joe Burrow does well against Baltimore. His first game back coming off that injury for Thanksgiving was against Baltimore. He had 19 DraftKings points when he was shaking off the rust. Last week, you saw him hit 25 DraftKings points. This week, he's at 6,600, facing off against a Baltimore team giving up 14 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. But that doesn't necessarily bother me in a game where their season is literally on the line. That can make Joe Burrow very interesting for us if we're looking for opportunity in a do-or-die situation for one of the best quarterbacks in the league. 6.5% owned. There's been a lot of narrative around Joe Burrow about his comments in a press conference recently. Says he's losing interest in the game, at least kind of sounded like that when he was giving his comments. Bengals not concerned about Joe Burrow's emotional comments. You can see on sportnuggets.com, we call up Joe Burrow. We see trade speculation and retirement comments, Joe Burrow's cryptic comments. Like, this is what the narrative is around Joe Burrow, which gives us an opportunity, like if people are shying off of him, to get these opportunities to start an elite quarterback with a matchup that he usually does well in, and at a discounted ownership in a game with a 51.5 point total. He's expensive, 6,100. Lamar Jackson also expensive at 6,400. In that Thanksgiving game, only 9.5 DraftKings points, but we had a couple touchdowns taken away, including Isaiah Likely, my guy, who I recommended that week, fumbled it at the goal line and became a touchback. It was literally at the 1-inch line. Would have been a huge, huge game for Isaiah Likely that week. but that fumble kind of killed that play. It didn't kill the play. He was 3K and he ended up scoring like 15 DraftKings points or something, like 12 DraftKings points. So he paid off for us, but could have been a much better day if Isaiah Likely had hit that. And he also had a touchdown called back from Zay Flowers in that game. So a couple touchdowns taken away in that game. The Bengals are weaker against the run, though. You're giving up 30.9 DraftKings points a game to the running backs. That's going to make Derrick Henry, I think, my preferred option in this game. I'm going to take a look and see what the ownership projection is over on Derrick Henry. Yeah, he's going under the radar a bit here at, under 15% owned. So Derrick Henry is in play for us here. We could have a sneaky game to stack here. It's going to be difficult to get some of the studs in, though, so people are going to be shying away from this game. Baltimore's only given up 19.7 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. That puts Chase Brown a little less in play for me, but I prefer the passing game here anyways. We're missing Higgins this week, but we got Chase. Chase had a week, few weeks, basically since coming back from the bye. He got suspended on that Thanksgiving game, but then he only had 6 DraftKings points against Pittsburgh. He had 21 against. He had 21 DraftKings points against Baltimore. So he did play in that Thanksgiving game. That's right, I forgot. So he had 21 DraftKings points against Baltimore in the last game that they played. I don't remember. I think they were they without Higgins in that one too? Yeah, they were without Higgins in that one too. So, Chase will be leaned on again in this one. We also got Tinsley, who's been pretty putrid when he's given the opportunity, like 2 for 9, 2 receptions out of 9 targets, 2 receptions out of 6 targets. But maybe he's shaking off some of that rust. But this guy's just like so frustrating to watch him drop all these passes. He had no targets against Buffalo last week. Let's get a look at his snap counts, because I can't imagine, like, with how bad he's been at trying to catch the ball, that his snap counts are increasing. Look over at Cincy. Tinsley had 15% last week. With Higgins out, he had 67% and 74%. So he is interesting from a perspective of he's probably going to get opportunity in this one, and he's only at 3,100. And we're looking for cheap value plays this week. So Tinsley is in play for us. We know the narrative with Gesicki. When Higgins is away, the Gesicki will play, and he had, last week he had 20 DraftKings points. Higgins was playing throughout that game. The last time we were missing Higgins on Thanksgiving, I liked Gesicki in that one. He only had 3.9 DraftKings points in that one. Last year, that narrative was a little stronger, but we're not really seeing it with Gesicki this year. But, at 3,300, he's in play as a potential stacking partner for Joe Burrow. I don't know if I'd use him necessarily outside of that, but you could use him there. Isaiah Likely, 13.5 and 12.5. I've been on him the last couple weeks. He's getting more expensive though at 3,400. Still in play for us against his Cincinnati defense that's given up 30.7 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. You're going to want one of these tight ends this week. Andrews is at 3,900. That's pretty cheap for Andrews. In his game versus Cincy, he had 6 targets, only 8.7 yards. I think he was missed on a touchdown too, but Likely fumbled that one. He would have been at 20 DraftKings points in that game, 95 yards in that game. And we target Likely in those good tight end matchups. So I do like Likely this week, even though he's been hitting for us. I've been calling the right games to use Likely. He's dropped a touchdown in each of the last 2 weeks, so it's frustrating with Likely. But maybe he catches that touchdown this week. Zay Flowers, should mention him while I'm here. The Bengals are really good against the pass. They have a legit secondary. So if I'm going with the Ravens, I'm leaning more towards Derrick Henry and then also those tight ends than I would be on the passing game. And then I want to run it back with that Bengals passing game. So that would be the direction I go with this game. Arizona, Houston. We're looking at a 42.5 point total with Houston as 9.5 point favorites. This is where Brissett likely turns back into a pumpkin. He's hit 20 DraftKings points every week, and I fade him every week, and I get punished for it every week. But this is the week where he's going to get under 20 DraftKings points. He's at 5,500, and he's got a difficult matchup against Houston, which has given up only 42 point, or what are they giving up? They're giving up only 13.8 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. Harrison Jr. out again, and Wilson, another guy that I have been fading throughout this whole thing, and he just keeps, kicking me in the nuts. 36.5, 24.8, 40.2. This week 13 was the 1 week where I started him, and he got 6.6 DraftKings points. So, been very frustrating with Michael Wilson, but, he's got a difficult matchup where they're only giving up 13.5 to wideouts, and a little bit more vulnerable in the slot, giving up 11.4. But it's tough to pull the trigger on him with the defense that the Houston Texans are running right now. Nico Collins would be more in play against Arizona. They have a good secondary too, but they're giving up 21.3 DraftKings points a game to the wideout position. I think ultimately in this game, I'm probably more interested in the running backs with Woody Marks. We got potential with Chubb potentially being out. He's questionable. We can go over to Sport Nuggets and look at the news on Chubb. This will be a significant one if he's out. Decline from prime form. That was 16 hours ago. We don't have anything too recent on him with that injury status. It's a rib injury. Working on the side with trainers during practice. Maybe they decide to hold him out in this game, and a game that's winnable for him. If they do, that sets up Woody Marks. He had 15.6 DraftKings points last week against Kansas City. Tougher run defense. Arizona's giving up 28.4 DraftKings points a game. That's one of the best running back matchups you can get. And Woody Marks is only 5,600. So I like the situation for Woody Marks. Probably the only guy I really like in this game. So Woody Marks in a good situation. The Chargers versus the Chiefs. This is another one with playoff implications. If Kansas City has a chance to make it in the playoffs, like they're a team that you want to be drafting in playoff best ball right now, before they make it to the playoffs and they get expensive. If Kansas City beats the Chargers at home, then their playoff situation is going to improve pretty significantly. Let's take a look over here at the situation. The Chiefs are number 10 when it comes to, the playoff bubble there. The Chargers are number 5. So the Chargers are 9-4. The Chiefs are 6-7. This is must win for the Chargers and must win for the Chiefs. If the Chiefs win this game, they have a 17% chance of getting in the playoffs. It's actually much better than that, because the Chargers and the Colts have very difficult schedules coming up. And we got the Colts playing with Phillip Rivers, and we got the Chargers playing with no offensive line, and Herbert playing with a broken wrist. So the Chiefs have an much easier schedule to run out the season if they get past the Chargers. So the Chiefs are going to be a sneaky team in playoff best ball to start getting your exposure now while they're dirt cheap. Because when they get in the playoffs, look at the teams that they're going to be up against in the playoffs. We got the Broncos. Chiefs could easily beat the Broncos in the playoffs. The regular season Broncos and the playoff Broncos are going to be two different teams. We got the Patriots, same situation. The Patriots are good in the regular season. Once they get to the playoffs, though, it's a whole different situation for these teams. The Jags, they're an imposter team anyways. Like, I would expect them to lose pretty early in the playoffs. The Steelers, I mean, I don't need to say much about that. The Chargers, we got the Bills, who the Chiefs always knock off in the playoffs, and we got the Texans, who the Chiefs could knock off in the playoffs as well. So, we're looking at a situation where the Chiefs could still make it to the Super Bowl this year if they can get into the playoffs. If they win this game, they got a 17% chance. According to this, I think they have a much better chance. Chiefs are in play for sure in the playoffs, and I worry about the Chargers. I bet on them to make it to the Super Bowl in the beginning of the season, but they need to win this game. They win this game, they get a 92% chance. So that just kind of shows you the importance of this game. And when we get a 42.5 point total, I would tend to think that it goes over that total. Let's take a look at the weather situation. They're playing in Kansas City. Temperatures in the 20s, light winds, and no precipitation. KC does have a heated field. So, we're looking at about as good weather situation as you can get in Kansas City this time of year. So these guys are going to be in play. We got Herbert at 6,300. That's not a bad price for Herbert, but if we're going over and looking at the injuries to the Chargers. All right, so we're looking at the Chargers. I look over at ESPN's depth charts to get these injury reports here. Pipkins is doubtful. He was like the final last man standing on that offensive line. He's their right. He's one of their tackles. We got Savion Washington out. Joe Alt on IR. Fisk on IR. He's one of the tight ends. Let's see. Where's the? We got Slater is out. Like, Slater is not even on here because he's done for the season. Alt, I think, is pretty much done for the season too. But they got the offensive line is put together with gum and scotch tape right now. On the defense, while we're here, looking at a safety injury with Molden facing off against Kansas City. That's interesting for Travis Kelce. We got a few more injuries on the defense with Fuga, Colson, Dye. We got the main guys in, though. We got Tier Tart in there. Denzel Perryman, Khalil Mack. The big names are still in there. Let's take a look at the Chiefs. We'll take a look at the Chiefs' injury situation. They are also missing important guys on their offensive line. We're missing Trey Smith and Juwan Taylor against this difficult matchup against these Chargers defense. We also got Driscoll out. We got Simmons on IR. That's not good. So very banged up for the Chiefs. Hollywood Brown is out in this game. That's going to be significant for our guy Tyquan here. This could be a Tyquan situation. And you guys know how I like to use Tyquan Thornton. We got Trent McDuffie is questionable in this one. Keep an eye on Trent McDuffie over on Sport Nuggets. We're going to want to keep track of that injury. Najee Johnson is already out. That's going to make the left cornerback vulnerable. And the guy who's running routes on the right side of the field, probably more Keenan Allen. But, I'm kind of not trusting Keenan Allen anymore. He's burned me a couple times at this point. So it's tough to get back with Keenan Allen. Janarius Robinson is on IR. We got Norman Lott on IR. Uzoma on IR. The big one's going to be Trent McDuffie. If we find out that he's out, let's take a look at Sport Nuggets. Let's see if they got any intel for us. Questionable. He's got a knee injury, limited in practice. He's probably going to play, honestly. He's been limited in practice. So this one is probably the more informative one. McDuffie continuing to work through a knee issue, indicating that he's managing the injury while remaining active in practice. So we're probably going to see McDuffie in this game. So the Chargers are giving up 11.5 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position, and the Chiefs are giving up 15.8. So in this one, a divisional rivalry, I want to take a look at maybe the history of Patrick Mahomes versus the Chargers. Oops, wrong page. So I'm going to go to Pro Football Reference. Going to look at Mahomes versus the Chargers. Do that. We're going to go to game logs here. We're going to sort it by career. Take a look at Mahomes' career game logs. I'm going to sort it by opponent. I'm going to go down to the Chargers. Recent games against the Chargers. We saw him 258 and 1 touchdown, and added a rushing touchdown in that one. 210 and a touchdown. Let's see. We had 245 and a touchdown. 424 and 4 touchdowns. That was in 2023. But we're more concerned with 24 when Harbaugh took over this team. So he's had, a couple middling matchups. Like I said, like a do or die situation on the Chiefs. I wouldn't bet against Patrick Mahomes. That first week, he had 26 DraftKings points against them. So he's definitely in play. He's been running a lot more than he normally does. Herbert had 30 DraftKings points in that first game. That game was a 27-21 game. Both these guys are going to be in play this week. They both have damage to their offensive line. We got Herbert more banged up than Patrick Mahomes. Both of them have their playoffs on the line, their seasons on the line. Like this is going to be a game where either the defense shows up or these guys play their minds out. So as far as the running back situation, Chargers, the Chiefs have only been giving up 18.1 to the running back position. The Chargers have been giving up 21.7. Chargers a little bit more vulnerable there. The situation with the Chargers, we got Hampton back last week. He was splitting with Vidal. With Hunt this week, we could see some opportunities for Hunt. Not too excited about that play. I'm more interested in the passing game here. The Chiefs have been giving up 22.6 to wideouts. And really, that would make Keenan Allen would be interesting. But like I said, he was in a pretty good spot against the weak spot in the defense last week against Philly, and he did nothing with that opportunity. 5, 6, and 5 targets. So he's still getting targets, but I'm not super high on that play. Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson would be, a little bit more interesting. Let's see. Let me check and see where that damage is to Kansas City again. It's to the left cornerback position, and Quentin Johnson is running the majority of his routes on the left side of the field. So Keenan Allen would be the more likely guy to line up against. Let me double check with Quentin though. 51% from the left outside. Yeah, so he's has the matchup against. But if McDuffie plays, that would put him up against Keenan Allen more. That would have Quentin Johnson against Jalen Watson. So that would be the weaker side of the field for Quentin Johnson. So Quentin Johnson could be in play. How much did he have in that first game? 24.9 DraftKings points. He is questionable, so we got to keep an eye on his status. But they are giving up 8.4 to the slot. That's not a good matchup for McConkey. It'd probably be Quentin Johnson. If you wanted a run back for the Chargers in this game, if you wanted to do the Patrick Mahomes stack, Quentin Johnson would probably be the guy. They've been weak against tight end too, giving up 13.1 DraftKings points. Gadsden has been kind of MIA recently. 4 targets and 2 targets in the last couple games, but maybe we see something out of Gadsden in this matchup. Philly, I think they're a tougher defense against the tight end position. And then in this game against the Chargers, against the Raiders, they're really like they 31-14 game. They didn't really need him there. And then they lost to Jacksonville. So he hasn't had a game since like week 19 or week 9. So I'm not super high on Gadsden, but he could be in play for us this week. And Kelsey, with the Chargers giving up 12.4, maybe they lean on Kelsey a little bit in this game. My interest is kind of with Tyquan Thornton, though, with that Hollywood Brown injury. And Thornton is at 3K. Thornton is in play for us at 3K this week. I would not be surprised to see them launch it to him. A couple opportunities. He did have 3 targets the last time they played. He had 3 targets in week 14. So I believe that's probably when Hollywood went out. But one of those targets was an end zone target, I'm pretty sure, a deep end zone target. So Thornton is in play for us. I like Rice in this game too. The Chargers have been good against the slot, though. They've been getting up 6.7 DraftKings points to the slot. Let me see if let's see. So according to Rich Rebar over at Sharp Football Analysis, Rice has had 33% of the team's first read targets against 2 high coverages with 3.32 yards per route run. And he's been targeted on 31.9% of his routes against zone coverages compared to 22.6% against man coverages. So if I'm looking over at PFF, I'm seeing that Chargers are running zone coverage at the 3rd highest rate in the league. And yeah, that puts Rashee Rice with that 31.9% target rate as the main guy that they're going to be targeting. And Rashee Rice will probably not garner a lot of attention this week from the field in this matchup. But Rashee Rice is capable of beating a matchup like this. If he's getting 12 targets and in that 29 DraftKings point range, he is expensive though. That's the thing that sucks. He's at 7,700. But let me check and see what his Looking at 5% owned. Rashid Rice could be a sneaky play in an important game for the Chiefs this week, but I'm not super high on it. But it's just something to keep in mind. If I was stacking this game, it would probably be Mahomes to Rice and Thornton, and running it back with like Johnson or Gadsden. So some interesting options for us in this game. Moving on, God, we got a freaking monster slate this week. 13 games in this slate. Let's go over Buffalo, New England. This is another one with playoff implications. Buffalo just needs to keep winning their games. They're still playing for the division, too. If we look back over here, the Bills are 9-4, and the Pats are 11-2. So they still have a chance at the division. They're all playing still for that number one seed, where the Broncos hold at 11-2. So the Patriots need to win this game. They need to win this game to try to take that number one seed. So very significant there. The Patriots, though, the Bills are giving up only 11.5 DraftKings points a game to the 12.6 to the quarterback position. They're giving up 24.8 to the running back. So the Bills have gotten better recently versus the run. But, Travion Henderson and Ramondre are doing an even split in that one too. So I don't like either of those plays. The Patriots have been good against the run, only giving up 17 DraftKings points. This could be a low-scoring game where, the only guy that's got a decent matchup is freaking Pop Douglas, with Buffalo giving up 12.6 DraftKings points a game to the slot. I mean, you could go there with the running backs, but the Bills, like I said, they've been better against running backs recently. It's a 49.5 point total with Buffalo as 1.5 point favorites. It's a situation where they're playing at home. You're just kind of relying on Josh Allen to be Superman at 7,500. I'm not too interested in this game, honestly. We got the Raiders versus the Eagles. This should be an easy one too. Raiders versus Eagles. We got a quarterback situation where Pickett, former Eagle, is going up against his old team. I wouldn't call it a revenge situation because they had him on the team as a backup and he won a Super Bowl with them. So if anything, like Pickett is probably owes the Eagles something. So Pickett is going to be the starting quarterback against a team giving up. Let's see. The Eagles are giving up 16.2 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. The problem wasn't Geno Smith. The problem is Pete Carroll. They fired Chip Kelly because he was running Pete Carroll's offense. And, it's just a really bad situation there in Las Vegas with Pete Carroll, running the offense like old school mentality. Brought in Tyler Lockett as a wide receiver and started giving him snaps over the rookies on the roster. And, just a bad situation overall for the Raiders. With the Eagles, the Raiders are giving out 25 DraftKings points a game, up to 4.7. I'm the Eagles the way they've been playing recently, so I don't really want to go Hurts, but Barkley would be in play, even though that they've been running terrible all season. He's at 7,100 too, so he's not cheap. He did break off a long run last week, but it wasn't. He didn't really do much else in that game. We got A.J. Brown with the wideouts getting 24.4 DraftKings points. That puts A.J. Brown in play if you want to go there. 6,800 for A.J. Brown, so I don't hate the matchup there. Problem is how much are they going to be throwing it in this game, and are the Eagles actually going to be any good in this game? So I tend to go in a different direction, but A.J. Brown would be the guy in play in this game. Green Bay versus Denver. Looking at a 42.5 point total with the Packers as 2.5 point favorites. Another game pretty significant with the playoff implications here. Green Bay is in a divisional race with the Bears and somewhat the Lions. And then we got Denver trying to hold first place, first overall seed against a, like a surging Patriots team. This matchup probably going to be difficult for Jordan Love. They're only giving up 13.3 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. I really don't like anything about this game. I think it's going to be a good game from a real football perspective, but the only guys with good matchups are going to be, the wideouts for Green Bay, because Denver, despite being good, has been giving up 23.8 DraftKings points a game to the wideout. So Christian Watson could be in play for us this week. That's about it. Dubs has not done much of anything recently. So I think Watson is going to be the play here. I would be interested in sprinkling in some Watson at 5,500, but not overly interested, because if he gets Surtain for a lot of the game, then it kind of would mean whoever's on the other side, most likely Dubs, would have the better game. We got Reed back too in the slot. Denver's been pretty good against the slot, though, only giving up 8.5 DraftKings points a game. So, they had a full complement of receivers. I would tend to lean more towards, Watson or Dubs, but really, I'm not really interested in any of these guys. On the tight end side, the Packers have a good tight end matchup with Denver giving up 19.8 to the tight end position, but we're looking at the situation here with I guess Musgrave. Look at all those Denver tight ends. We got Musgrave at 2,500. He got 4 targets last week. Musgrave could be a sneaky play for us. Let's check out his snap count. Looking over at Green Bay here. Musgrave had a 40% snap count. This guy, John Fitzpatrick, had a 57%, and we had Josh Wiley. I'm guessing he's probably the blocking tight end, but like Fitzpatrick at 57% and Musgrave at 40% for their snap counts. It's kind of tough to. Looks like Musgrave's getting the targets at least. So, Musgrave could be in play at 2,500. I mean, you can't go wrong at 2,500 in a matchup where the Broncos are giving up 19.8 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, and there's likely going to be difficult for the wideouts in this game. Running backs in that last game, I'm not really interested in either running back, Josh Jacobs or the rookie there, RJ Harvey. Go back there real quick. Jacobs looks like he's questionable too. Harvey's been breaking out the last couple weeks, 21 and 22 DraftKings points. The matchup for Harvey, Green Bay's been giving up 21.5 DraftKings points. So you could make a play on Harvey. He's at 6K, but yeah, that's kind of expensive for that matchup. Detroit versus the Rams. This is another game, massive playoff implications, especially for Detroit. They're playing in a dome, and this is a rivalry that's become an interesting rivalry recently. Stafford and Goff, that infamous trade where the Rams traded Goff away for Stafford. They gave up on Goff. Goff goes to the Lions and ends up resurrecting his career and having just being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And meanwhile, it worked out for both teams because Stafford has been one of the best teams in the NFL as well. And now they face off against each other the last few years. Seems like an annual occurrence. I think they had one game against each other in the playoffs as well. But the game here, we're looking at let's see. Looking at a 54.5 point total. with the Rams as 5.5-point favorites at home in this one. This game is going to be like a huge potential shootout. The Rams have been giving up, or the Lions have been giving up 21.5 to the quarterback position. That puts Stafford in the better spot here. Stafford's third time playing the Lions since leaving the team. Capable of putting up multiple touchdowns in this one. Let's go over and look at the damage to the Rams and Lions, because the Lions just lost more of their secondary. The Lions are out. Kirby Joseph is out. Brian Branch is out. Zach Cunningham is out. Ezekiel Turner. Terrion Arnold was their best cornerback. He is now out. Dan Jackson is out. Rakestraw is out. Pascal is out. So half their defense is missing. Same situation as last season with the Lions. They just can't stay healthy on their defense. On the offense, we're missing, or not missing, but Taylor Decker is questionable. Looks like their offensive line, a lot of their guys are questionable there. For the Rams, let's check this situation out. Adams is questionable. Tutu Atwell on IR. Haverstein is on IR for the offensive line. Only injury we have here is on the linebacker, where we got Keir Thomas on IR. Oh, and we got Quentin Lake is on IR. That's significant for Amon-Ra. Roger McCreary also on IR. Let me look up Quentin Lake real quick. I want to see something with Quentin Lake. Let's see. Quentin Lake had an overall grade on PFF. Let's take a look at this. 75 overall grade. His pass rush grade was 63. All of this above average. 74 for his run defense, and his coverage grade was 72.9. That made him 13th out of 95 at his position. So him being out is pretty significant there. Unfortunately, we don't have Sam Laporta. To take advantage of that. Or nickel, but no, that's this is slot receiver. So we got Amon-Ra in a better situation here. So yeah, Amon-Ra is going to be in play for us at 7,900. Let me check and see what his projected ownership is. Looking at 20% for him, that's not terrible. He is expensive at 7,900. It's going to be hard to stack this game. Nakua is at 8,700. Adams is at 72. Very expensive plays in this game. We'd have to go somewhere else. Probably Williams at 6,100 would be in play. And then we got Gibbs at 8,800. So this game is going to be very difficult to get pieces of with how expensive they are. Kyron Williams is at 6,800. He's been splitting recently with Blake Corum. Detroit's been really good against run. Both these teams have been good against the run, with Detroit only allowing 15 DraftKings points and Rams only allowing 18.3. So difficult matchup all around for the running backs here. I do like the quarterbacks. I like the wide receivers. And as far as the tight ends, not really too high on the tight ends in this one either. So yeah, it's really passing games with the receivers in this one, but some very interesting plays. I don't hate going Corum here the way that he's been playing and the discount that we're getting on his price. Moving on to Carolina, New Orleans, another one with significant playoff implications. We got Carolina trying to win the division. We had a meltdown with the Bucs the other day, and Carolina, it comes into this game, let's see, with a 40.5 point total. They are 2.5 point favorites in this one. Rough matchup for either of the quarterbacks in this one. Carolina, the Saints have only been giving up 10.6 DraftKings points a game, but I think that's primarily because they are being run against. And the Panthers have been giving up only 13.7 DraftKings points. I think it's a similar situation there. The running backs, though, Saints have been giving up 25.8, and the Panthers have been giving up 28.8 DraftKings points a game to the running back positions. And we got some cheap options at the running back here with Devin Neal at 5,300. He's in that good matchup, so it could be interesting for Neal. With this being, we got a 40.5 point total with the Panthers as 2.5 point favorites. They're division rivals, so I don't hate the idea of using like a Shuck or something like that, but he's been decent for a few weeks recently, but I just never trust Bryce Young to deliver. Like the 1 week I used him was like this week in between these two massive weeks that he had, but he's difficult to pin down on the weeks that he's going to do well in. And Saints D, like I said, they're only giving up 10.6 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position, so it's hard to get on this other than with the running backs. And the running backs, it's Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard now on a timeshare. We got Devin Neal, like I said, on the other side. It's a tough game to get behind, even with all the playoff implications. The Saints have been giving up 19.4 to wideouts, so that makes Ted McMillan a little bit interesting at 6K. And Olave should get volume in this one, which would make him theoretically interesting too, but tough to get behind anyone in this game for me. I'd rather pass and move on to Indy versus Seattle. Got a rain situation here. Chance for a shower. Models continue to be unimpressive as far as rain coverage and rain intensity. So I think we're likely just talking about a chance for a rain shower. So doesn't look like it's going to be significant rain. I told you guys my stance on rain in the past. I don't trust rain if it's going to be a lot of rain, or if there's rain really in the forecast. If I think it's going to be a chance that there's going to be a decent amount of rain, then I try to avoid it. We got Sam Darnold. Let's see what the matchup is telling us here. We got a 42.5 point total with Seattle as 13.5 point favorites. This is the one where we got Phillip Rivers as the starter. Yeah, and it's official. He is starting. So, Phillip Rivers. The situation here with Rivers is I don't want to play him against Seattle. Seattle is a very difficult defense. They're giving up only 13.6 DraftKings points a game. I understand why they're running out Rivers here, because they want to knock the rust off of him before he gets that easier stretch of games. He's going to have an easier matchup next week. Can't remember who it's against, but it was an easier matchup. And he's going to keep their playoff hopes alive. The situation with bringing in Rivers versus their rest of the options is the young players aren't reading defenses correctly, and they're relying more on their athletic abilities. I've heard a bunch of people make this case, and it makes a lot of sense to me. You bring in a guy like Rivers who, is at a top level when it comes to reading defenses. They're not going to be able to disguise the defense as much around Phillip Rivers. He'd be able to manage his way into, some wins here. We got, obviously Jonathan Taylor in the backfield with him. Rivers has an opportunity, not this week, but in a week in the future to be decent for us. 4,900 though is egregious for his price. He should not be 49. It should have been like 4,500 or something like that. Against this defense, like that's egregious. Hopefully he does poorly in this game, knocks him down to 4,500 in a much easier matchup for us next week. But Rivers, like not in play for me this week, but I'm not giving up hope on him in the future. Part of the reason why you guys see me start a lot of these veteran quarterbacks when they come into situations where they're dirt cheap facing off against bad defenses is exactly for this reason, because they're going to be able to read the defenses decently, and they're going to be able to, put up decent points relative to their salary. So we're going to get that potentially next week with Phillip Rivers, but not this week against Seattle. Sam Darnold on the other side, he should do well against this Indy defense. They're missing Charvarius Ward and Sauce Gardner. So rough situation here for the Colts. They lost their starting quarterback, Daniel Jones, last week to an Achilles tear. Daniel Jones was having a resurgence in his career, but now they're in a situation where they have to win games to hold off the Chiefs and to hold off the Chargers in kind of taking that spot, that last remaining playoff spot. So they have to win at least one or two of the next coming up games probably. So that's why it's ultra important for them to win at least a game. Right now, Colts are on the bubble, so they need to win a game. They're at 8-5. Rivers is a desperation play. I don't think they're going to win this week, but Rivers is going to set them up to potentially manage them into a couple wins down the stretch and keep those playoff hopes alive. So it makes sense logically there with Rivers. Rivers did look like he was completely out of shape, though. Had a big gut that they were panning up on, like when they were showing the practice footage of him playing, in the practice field. He's going to be winded halfway through this game. I don't know how Rivers is going to make it through the whole game without being like completely worn out, but we'll see what happens with Rivers in this one. I would tend to lean more towards the defense of the Seahawks here. We got Jackson Smith and Jigba too. The Colts, without those corners, they're going to be completely vulnerable to Smith and Jigba and Shaheed. The question is, how much time or chances are they going to get in this game that they're supposed to blow it out? As far as the running backs, we're looking at Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet splitting it, but they both have been pretty bad. 2.9 yards per attempt last week for Walker, 6.6 for Charbonnet. The problem with them splitting this backfield is like none of them have been relevant apart from Kenneth Walker. I think that was the week that Charbonnet was out. So difficult situation here. I would probably in this game, we got an interesting situation here with Warren too. The Seahawks, good defense, but they're giving out 17.7 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. Rivers, look for him to lean on Warren in this one. So Warren is in an interesting spot. I wouldn't mind playing Warren at a discounted 4,700, the way that he's been playing recently. And we got Barner. Barner with them giving up 17.4 DraftKings points. He's in play too at 3,200. He's going to be getting less opportunities. And I think they'll lean more on Smith and Jigba and the passing game here. And then, try to muddle their way through a run game in this one. But more interested in the Colts next week than I am this week. But I do like, potentially, Jackson Smith and Jigba if they decide to keep their feet on the gas. Smith and Jigba, by the way, needs about 145 yards a game for each of the remaining games to hit 2,000 receiving yards. They would probably want him to get there before that, so they can't, say, oh, well, he did it in 18 games instead of 17 games or whatever. So look for Smith and Jigba, with the chasing the record books. They're probably going to give him his opportunities, especially in this matchup where we're looking at both the starting corners being out. Tennessee versus San Francisco, the final game on the slate. Not really interested in anyone on the Tennessee side except for DK. The total on this one is 45.5 with San Francisco as 12.5-point favorites. He's running in the slot where they're giving up 18.6 DraftKings points a game to the slot. San Francisco also giving up 15.9 to tight ends. So you got the starter kit here for Cam Ward to have a decent game. San Francisco giving up 20.1 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position, 18.6 to the slot, and 15.9 to the tight end position. That sets up Ward, if you wanted to start him, to stack him with DK and also Chiga Konkwu, if you wanted to add him into the mix. If you wanted to go Purdy, the Titans are giving up 23.7 to quarterbacks. They've actually been good against the run, only giving up 20.8. But they've been vulnerable versus the pass, giving up 24.4 to wideouts and 12.5 to the slot. Also 15.4 to the tight end. So that's going to put our guy Kittle in play. Kittle would be in play as a run back. He's cheap at 5,400. So we got, both the receivers in Jennings and Pearsall would be in play too, 51 and 5,200. They're pretty cheap. And as far as the remaining guys, Christian McCaffrey's always going to be in play, but he's at 9K. I don't like that price on him. So yeah, that's it for the analysis. So let's break into our lineup building. Make sure to hit that like button. Give me the 70 likes so I can put my favorites over in the sportnuggets.com insights. You're going to want to go over here to sportnuggets.com. You're going to want to clear it out of your filters. And when the insights are up, you're going to go up here, sort by insights. You can see I wrote one for likely already. And I'm going to have a week 15 annotation here. So you're looking for week 15. Otherwise, the insight is kind of irrelevant. So look for week 15 on the insight for the picks for this week. And you'll see that Isaiah likely one up there already as a salary saver. This one from Chubb. I put up one from Chubb already. Keep a close eye on his status. That's a week 15 relevant one. But you get there, you clear out the Nuggets filters, you go to sort by, and you just hit insights, and you look for all those week 15 Nuggets. So subscribe over there. It's a free beta preview on top of it, so take advantage of that. I'm going to be putting out some premium content starting around Christmas. I'm going to be integrating articles and write-ups on a separate page. We'll be doing some premium shows on there too for Showdown and stuff like that. So make sure to get in now. There's going to be a discount for people who sign up for the free beta preview. If you sign up for the free beta preview now, when we initiate premium, you're still going to have access to all the, like the sorting and stuff for a free account. But the premium is just going to contain some premium content. We're going to give a 20% discount probably to the people who are already signed up for an account. We're going to offer them a 20% discount for, I think we said for at least a year. So it's going to be a good discount to take advantage of. So make sure you're signed up. You have to be signed up for an account in order to be eligible for that early bird discount. That's going to be early bird for the entire site. So we're going to be very generous to the people who sign up early and support from day one on that site. So take advantage of that for sure. And let's get into this build. All right, so we're looking at, let's clear this out and get to all games here. My first game I want to stack is this Washington-New York game. I think that game is interesting to me. Going to go on this one with Mariota. I think I like Mariota's side a little bit easier from a stacking perspective, and he's at 5K. I'm going to stack him with Terry McLaurin, who's cheap at 5,400. And I'm going to also add in, let's see. I'm going to add in a tight end. We got Theo Johnson. I don't know if I mentioned him, but he's upgraded to full practice. Theo Johnson's got a matchup where the Commanders are giving up 19.4 DraftKings points a game to the tight end, on top of like the big points they're giving up to wideouts and slots. So we have a few options here. Theo is at 3,500. We look at wideouts. We got Robinson at 59 and Slayton at 44. Let's try Robinson. Get him in there. I don't want to overstack this game because I want to leave opportunity to get some of these other more important games in here. So I'm going to go next to my wideouts. Let's try to get Nakua and Smith and Jigba both in. Let's get Henry in there. I like Derrick Henry. Let's pick a cheap defense. Let's go cheap as we can get here. Jets versus Jacksonville. We got Colts versus Seattle. Tennessee versus San Francisco. I don't hate the Saints versus Carolina. And I don't mind necessarily Cincinnati even. They're playing at home. Let's go Saints. So we get a cheap one in there. Tight end. What was that $2,500 tight end that I was talking about? Stover, Johnson, Lacey. God, I can't remember who that was. Hudson, Grandy. Ferkser. Musgrave, that's who it was. Let's get Musgrave in there. Leaves us with 4,100 for our last spot. That's going to be a tough one for us. Let's see if there's anyone at 4,100. Shipley and McNichols. He had a pretty big role in the passing game at one point. But yeah, I can't go there with McNichols. Michael Carter. So if Henry is 7,300, let's go down from Henry a little bit. Let's look at some of these other options. Let's go with Travis Etienne. That at least gets us to 4,900 for our last spot. And at least there we have like Rodriguez as an option for us. We got Blake Corum as an option. I wouldn't mind going Blake Corum here. Just to give us, what's Woody Marks' salary? He's at 5,600. So I need 700. If I wanted to get Marks in there, I'd swap out from Wandale to Slayton, basically. That gives us $800 left to play with. And I could go with a different defense if I wanted to. It's not a ton of great ones. I don't mind Green Bay versus Denver. And Kansas City's not bad versus the Chargers, given the stakes of that game, but there's not really much better than what I had in there. So, this gives you plenty of studs in the lineup. We're not giving away too much by going cheap at tight end. And we got Nakua and Smith and Jigba in there. If we wanted to, maybe we take out. I want to get like Amon-Ra in there too. Let's go with Amon-Ra instead of Smith and Jigba. But let's say that that they are primarily going to be either relying on the run over there in Seattle or different options there with that massive total that they have, or massive spread that they have there. If we wanted to go this direction and we still wanted to go with that option in defense with the Saints, we could swap out Musgrave, and that gets us to at least a 4K. Oh, that puts us right in Harold Fanning Jr. So, I mean, this is a really nice build, actually. Gets us some exposure to those higher total games. Gets us the Puka to Amon-Ra stack. We got exposure to this Washington Giants game, which should be competitive. And then we have, like Jacksonville and Marks, who I expect to have, pretty decent games there. We're missing, I mean, there's 13 games on the slate. We're not going to be able to cover all the angles on these games. But let's swap out now. Let's get Mariota out. I do like still McLaurin in there, but let's get Slayton out of there. I don't need Slayton. And let's go with Shedeur. Let's put him in here. So we got Shedeur Sanders in the quarterback position. Let's get him Fanning as his stacking partner. Leaves us with 4,700. So in this scenario, we could go Dubs if we wanted to. Shaheed. I don't mind Shaheed. Reed, Worthy. We got those options. We got DK as an option too. Let's put Amon-Ra in the receiver spot and see what we got at 4,700 for the flex. So we might have some tight end options that would be more interesting. We got Tajay Spears, Pacheco, Dubs, Washington. We got Warren as an option there, and I like his matchup a good bit. We got, let's see, Hubbard as an option. They've been splitting the backfield there, and they have that good matchup. So I don't mind going Hubbard there in an important game for the Panthers. And, we got Kincaid as an option there. So we got a lot more options if we go this route with Shedeur Sanders. Let's clear this out. Actually, 4,700. Let me check real quick, see if there was a run back option on the Bears for 4,700. We could double stack him with Judy. We could get Burden in there if we go $100 less on our defense. That would give us a Burden as a run back. That'd probably be the most strategic way to go on it. And I think it would probably make the most sense, honestly. Yeah, with what Cleveland's given up to they're only giving up 13.8 to wideouts. So giving up 26 to the running back position. What would that take us with the running back? 57. We need 500 more to get to Monangai. So, you could tinker with your lineups and see if you can get to Monangai and maybe have him as your run back. But let's go to one of these more expensive games. Let's go to Cincinnati, Baltimore. I do think that this game has potential to shoot out. I like Burrow better than Jackson. I like Henry in this one, and I think I would stack him with Chase. And Burrow, I like stacking, honestly, with two receivers. So I'd probably go. Now, I want to, let's run it instead of Henry. Let's run it back with. No, let's stick with Henry, and let's add in likely. So we got the biggest weak spots against them covered. Now let's go to our defense. I probably want to find as cheap as I can get on these defenses, honestly. Let's go with let's put the Raiders in there. So we're looking at 5,600. We need that because we want to put in Nakua or in Jigba. I'd probably put Nakua in first. Let's get Marks in this one too. Leaves us with 4,100 per guy. Let's look at Jameson Williams. Let's see. How would we get him in here? We'd have to probably go down to Musgrave. Get that $2,500 guy in there. I mean, that at least leaves us with 3,100 in the flex, and you can mess around with that. Let's get Burrow out. Let's swap over to Stafford. We want to get those, expensive plays in there. We got Stafford to Nakua. We're running it back with Williams. Let's get Chase out. Let's put Amon-Ra in. Gives us 2,900 there. Maybe we go with Goff instead. That leaves us with 3,800. We got Goff to St. Brown and Williams. I would probably swap out Henry at that point and Musgrave. Let's get Likely in there as the tight end. And let's put a better, different option there at quarterback or running back. Let's go with ETN again. I like ETN this week. And that leaves us with 3,700 in the flex. And that just puts us in this space where you got like options. You can just like sort through. I'd probably go double tight end in a build like this, and swap out the Raiders D into something better there. But there's plenty of ways to go in this one. I think you guys need to just think about the playoff pitchers in this one. We do have a couple spots where we got a team like Cleveland, which might be trying to play spoiler to Chicago. Shedeur Sanders, maybe they give him more the keys to the car in this one. We got Washington, New York, sloppy shootout potential. We got Baltimore, Cincy, game that they're capable of putting up a lot of points, and division rivals both playing for their playoff lives in that one. And then we got, the Chargers, Chiefs in a similar situation. And then we got, obviously, Detroit and LA. Those are the games that I think are the most interesting from a fantasy perspective. That's where I would focus. Go sign up over on sportnuggets.com. Check out the site before we get, closer to lock tomorrow. I'm going to be putting some up throughout the night, so you can check it right now, see what's on there. And I'll be putting up more ahead of game time tomorrow when I have a better idea of inactives and stuff like that. So keep track on that. Sign up for that free beta preview. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and get me to 70 likes to put up those insights. And I'll see you guys next time.